Chatters, we're back with Pam of Perfectly Holistic. Pam, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So Pam's actually recording it because she has more technical abilities than I do, and she's generously doing that for me. But I had asked Pam if we could hop on a call together because we have never discussed what we went through for Charlie and his feline hyperesthesia syndrome, which is the reason I initially met Pam and started working with her. And this was all on a cat owner side. So what happened is Charlie had I'm going to say had a syndrome. I don't know if like most would say is in remission or whatever, called feline hyperesthesia syndrome, which is also known as twitchy cat disease and like ripple something disease. And I had taken him to the vet, 3 chiropractors. I had worked with 2 other holistic practitioners. I was deep diving into the internet trying to figure out how to get it to stop. Because the idea with a lot of veterinarians is to go straight to gabapentin, which is, I think, a nerve blocking drug. I'm not really sure. But my first vet that we went to, not the one that I go to now or the one that deemed him with feline hyperesthesia syndrome, when we would take him into the vet, they would require him to be sort of sedated so that they could treat him, and they use gabapentin for that. And I can't remember the milligram dosage that they gave me, but they said it was the standard dosage for all cats and what they always gave people to bring their cats back in. So I gave Trig and Charlie that, and Charlie's my hyperesthesia cat. And an hour later, because you're supposed to give it an hour before you take him to the vet, both of them were on my living room floor, unable to move. So I already knew how his system reacted to gabapentin. And even the next time that I took him in, I reduced the dosage by 1/3, or maybe it was 1/4. I can't really remember because this was so many years ago. And he still had terror in his eyes, but he was unable to move his body. And I can't imagine, I mean, it reminds me of a book that I read about a stroke victim where you cannot move, but you have all the ability in your head to think about what you'd like to do. So, or say, so I just said, I can't do gabapentin. So we were on a very, very, very low dose of steroids by the time I met Pam. And but Charlie was on the steroids. And then I also had him on Adored Beast Feline Gut Soothe, which was, I mean, praise Julianne Lee of Adored Beast for creating that product, because it helped me until I found Pam. And it's helped me even after, with Pam. Okay, so all of that's done. I am losing my mind almost every night. I'm in flight or fright all the time. And a friend of mine who had done a consultation with Pam had suggested several times, Jenny, why don't you reach out to Pam? And at that point, I was so defeated by so many things. The chiropractors, the holistic practitioners, my veterinarian was willing to work with it, but she never had cats with feline hyperesthesia syndrome. I think she had one in like her 20 years of being a vet. And so she said, just call her and see what she thinks and see like how it goes. And so I did. And Pam offers a 15, 20-minute free call before you jump in together. And that, I think that's so important. It's not only perfect for you to see if you want to work with Pam, but also good for Pam to know if she thinks she can help. So I remember I was walking in my yard outside and I was like, listen, Pam, like you're my last hope. Like I really didn't see a way out of this with Charlie. There's a feline hyperesthesia group on Facebook that I'm a part of. And I had read all of the posts, just dedicated a day to reading all the posts on there to see if there was anything in there that, would resonate that helped Charlie. And there were bits and pieces like the Feline Gut Soothe. I think I found from an independent store here when I told them what was going on with him and they suggested it. But it was always like throwing things against the wall to see if they'd stick. And it was never like a battle plan of how are we going to tackle this cause and stop treating the problem. So enter Pam. Pam has a service called Optimal Health Analysis, and that's what I purchased from her. And what that means is you go to our website, you buy that. I'll include a link in the description, and then you fill out a questionnaire form that she has that includes things like, cat's name, date of birth, weight. I'm looking at it right now. My very first one that I submitted, the history of the kitty and all that sort of thing. Any drugs they've been on, if they've been desexed and all that stuff. And then you also send photos of the kitty, and then you submit it all and wait to hear back from Pam. And so, Pam, what do you do thereafter?
It takes 2 to 3 hours to do an assessment on a cat. So I don't make people sit online with me. I just basically reach out to them and I tell them, I'm going to start working on your kitty today. Stay tuned. And then as soon as I finish all of my muscle testing and going through everything to figure out what do we need to, what does this cat's body need in order to be supported, to address underlying causes of things. And I put together a detailed protocols outline of, okay, this is most important. This is the next thing. This is the next thing. These are the products that you will need. These are the protocols to follow. Other recommendations, just whatever the body needs to be supported and so it can heal itself. And so then I send that back to you with all of the notes of everything that resonated with imbalance or stress in the body, and then all the potential causes of that stress and imbalance in the body and the sources of those things, so that you can see, okay, this was contributing to this and it's affecting all of these organs, glands, and tissues in the body. You know what I mean? So I want people to have an understanding. I feel like it's an education process, an opportunity, because I'm not a vet. I don't pretend to be a vet. I just read energy and frequencies all day. And so I think the education process is critical for people to understand why your cat got to this point, and then how can we do a 180 and turn it around? How can we help this body heal? But we're going to have to do some clean out. You know what I mean? And so that's what we had to do with Charlie. We're like, okay, well, let's go figure out all the sources of stress that's in his body and his tissues that's contributing to all of these symptoms. And there was quite a few things, that we had to address, and that took some time. But it's very interesting because there's always an emotional component to health also. So I look at emotions. I look at things in the environment to see, are those things contributing to stress? Are other family members, pets, whatever it might be? I look at the whole physical, emotional, spiritual side of this precious little kitty cat. What do you need to be, supported with? How can we support you at this time? And I think, like I said, the education process, I don't just want to throw a bunch of words on a piece of paper with, take this supplement, this. I want you to understand the why behind things, what's going on. And so I try to explain some of that in my email back to you. I do put the steps and the products and the protocols on there, but I also include a lot of explanations because I'm a big believer in education and understanding the whole concepts. It doesn't mean you have to master it all, but when you go to a vet, they don't really give you much information. And sometimes what they do share is just kind of like over your head, like, I don't know what you just said. And I would say, can you put that in layman's terms, please? So I try to break it down for people and just help you understand this is what the body is saying. This is how it's feeling. This is how it's responding. Emotions are stored in cellular tissue and organs and glands, and they can emit those same emotions. So if the liver is toxic because of medications or things we've put in the body, the liver will reflect that it's feeling kind of toxic, And so that's what's really cool about the component of the mind, body, spirit release that I include in these sessions now, because it pulls all that information together. It shows you how the body is feeling. So if the lymph is very stagnant and sluggish, it's going to stay sluggish, you know? If the sinuses are congested, the lymph might feel blocked. And so it's just very, very interesting how all of the body can tell me how it's feeling. How are those organ systems, glands feeling with the stressors that are, you know, put upon them right now that the cat's dealing with? So it
Right.
paints a big picture.
Yes. Sorry. So I gotta love a random cough in the middle of this. Pam, the mind body release that she's referring to, Pam actually had that done on the human side on her. And so that's kind of how she got into this. And
Mhm.
it's not, I don't want to go deep into that because I don't want it to be about that, but it
Yeah.
is so cool. And, a lot, you know, some of the folks that I've told about this are like, what? My
Mhm.
body release and like, what? Like she does energy clearings and muscle testing. Like, what is that? I had a thyroid disease for 8 years in my 20s. I'm in my 40s now. And that, I was muscle tested frequently during that process, like to see if a product would work or not. And it
Mhm.
is gold, like gold, because all of the problems that I had with, you know, trying to throw things against the wall to see if it would stick with Charlie, all that's out the window now. I don't have to worry about that. From Pam's muscle testing, I know exactly what his body needs, which will differ from what Trig's body needs. Or sometimes,
Mhm.
you know, a product can work for both, but it just depends. So
Mhm.
that's the cool thing about this. That's why I always reference working with Pam, because you just stop having to guess. It like takes off so much weight that is on you trying to figure it out yourself. So it's a beautiful thing. And can you talk a little bit about muscle testing, like how it works and why it works?
Yeah, so it's important to remember that everything is comprised of energy. We're made of energy. Our cats are made of energy. The desk that you're sitting in front of is made of energy. You know, everything vibrates at a certain energetic frequency. And so, on an energetic perspective, because we're all made of energy, everything is connected energetically. I like to think of it like this big spider web throughout the universe that's has these little, you know, webs that connect every single energetic being because we are. And things that affect me can affect other people near me, or I can affect their energy because of this energetic web that we're all connected through. Muscle testing basically taps into the energy of the body via the nervous system, where you can ask the body questions and to find out what's causing stress, how to support that organ, what does the body need to strengthen or support an organ or a gland in the body, so to, for example. So muscle testing, basically we can take a supplement, we can take a remedy, we can take a food, whatever it might be, and basically using the energy from that cat. And I work remotely, so I use a photo and I just want the picture of the cat by itself, so I get its energy, not a person or a different pet with it. And I basically do the same type of testing remotely that I would do in person, because the energy is not limited by time and space. That's just a quantum physics principle. Okay, it's an energetic principle. Um, so I can go in and I can test that cat for all the ways that it can be supported, and you can rule out things. You can figure out real fast, well, that's not benefiting, that's causing stress. We can eliminate that food, we can eliminate that supplement, we can eliminate that drug or whatever, because they're having a reaction. It's very simple to it's it streamlines the whole process, like you were saying, because you can get right down to the nitty gritty about what's beneficial, what's not beneficial, what's working, what's not. So it makes the process from A to Z go much faster, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, as Pam was talking, I was thinking about one of the things that Pam did differently that the other holistic folks that I worked with before meeting Pam was that she detoxed Charlie.
Hmm.
And that was 100% needed. But let's back up a little bit because um, I feel like I'll skip around because my dyslexic brain will be like, bing, bing, bing. So once I got your optimal health analysis back, and I'm trying to look at it on my other computer,
Yeah.
I think the first step was to detox. And you found the cause of his feline hyperesthesia was from rabies, I think. There it is.
It was the vaccines and the pesticides.
Yeah.
He'd evidently had a lot in him, and there was cytokine energy resonating, which is cytokines are basically inflammatory messengers. And when the body is pushed into a hyperimmune response too many times, the body just continues to release these inflammatory messengers, and there's not an off switch. And if it's not addressed, I mean, cytokine, they call it a cytokine storm, it can actually damage organs to failure. So we've got to shut off that switch. You've got to provide the body with the antioxidants to stifle that inflammatory response, but removing the causes of that inflammatory response has to be first. Otherwise, you're chasing your tail, you know?
Kind of ironic you'd use that with a feline hyperesthesia.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
That's true. That's true. You know, and some cats need nourished before detoxing, but Charlie did not. So, like you said earlier, every cat is different, and every approach has to be unique to what that cat needs. But Charlie's first step was detox because he was ready for that.
Okay. So that makes me wonder, that's the other thing is I don't want someone who's watching this that has a feline hyperesthesia cat that's like, oh, well, my cat's never had the rabies vaccine, so this isn't going to work. Or, you know, because in like Australia, they're not going to need a rabies vaccine. So what are
they might do an FDRCP vaccine like 10 times.
Yeah.
Or 3 times, you know, between 6 weeks and 4 months old. And sometimes that's enough to set the body off, you know. So if any vaccine, I tell people, if your cat has had 1 vaccine, detox it. You just don't want those nasty elements that they put in those things in the body.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're unsure that if vaccines are causing problems, if they've had a vaccine or 2 or 3, detox it, you know?
Yeah. So you've done a lot of feline hyperesthesia cats now.
Yeah.
In the last year. I started working with Pam on the 16th of May in 2022, and it is June 7th, 2023 right now. So have you found other causes other than flea meds and vaccines for hyperesthesia?
Those are like some of the biggest, by far. Those are, I would probably say 80%. It's tied to that. Flea meds are up there also because they are neurotoxins. So we have to always remember that neurotoxins stress the nervous system. And so when you see a cat who's having these nervous twitches and, you know, limb flicking and things like that, just know that the toxins from that flea medication can be causing that kind of reaction. It's quite scary to think that is even allowed to be put on pets when you understand what those chemicals do. And there's a reason they tell the pet parent to don't let this medication touch your hands. You know, there's just not a lot of common sense when you read those labels. And you're thinking, don't get it on me, but you want me to put it on this 10-pound animal?
Yeah.
And don't touch the cat for an hour? You know, it's like, are you serious? We have to start thinking a little bit more about what we're putting on and what's in the stuff we're putting on, just like we have to do for ourselves. You know, we need to stop taking things for granted, that it's safe and non-toxic or whatever. We just need to stop and read labels and understand what we're putting on them. But any kind of neurotoxin can cause major, major problems. So I think the vaccines are the biggest ones. And the second would be the flea and tick meds, because what happens is, like in your case, or similar to your case, the cat's scratching, licking, biting, whatever, and they think, well, it might be mites, it might be fleas. Why don't you just put this flea medication on? And to me, that's like putting fuel on the fire. You know what I mean? Let's just throw more toxic stuff onto their poor little immune system and nervous system, and see what happens. It doesn't make any sense. But okay, so let's talk about other considerations. If you have flame retardant cat beds or pet beds in your home, if you have any kind of flame retardants in your house, and most of the time people don't even realize they have them, because it's not like they come with a label that says, hey, I have flame retardants. You have to do some digging. But flame retardants, if you have a weak immune system, that immune system can be so irritated and flip of a switch when they're exposed to irritants like flame retardants, which are also endocrine disruptors. If you are exposed to some kinds of laundry soaps, laundry detergent, dryer sheets, think about the cleaning products that you use in your home. Are they toxic? Or do they have a non-toxic natural label on the product? Because I guarantee you, on some level, they could be contributing to that toxic load in the body. May not be the primary contributor of stress, but it might be 3 or 4 down the list, because you look at the cumulative effect of the toxic load in the body over time, and consider the size of their bodies, and they don't, they live a fraction of the years that we as humans live, and we're so much bigger as, body wise. Their little bodies don't have that capability to deal with that kind of toxic load that we would be able to deal with, So we have to keep those kinds of things in mind.
Yes.
Well,
and it's interesting that you said that because it's like the canary in a coal mine.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Charlie. Is I think it was before I talked to you, I had switched to a what I thought was a green natural detergent. And it had a gardenia scent, which is one of my favorite scents. And I got him under control. He was on steroids, like I said, and I only gave him steroids every 3 days because I didn't want him on steroids for life and all that kind of stuff. And he was having a great day. And I was wearing a sweatshirt type of thing that I had air dried and not put through my dryer. So it was even more fragrant than like my dried clothes. And I was sitting at my computer where I am now, and I had my arms like this, and he jumped in and laid there for a while. And then when he got up, he started going berserk. And I was like, no, what on earth could have caused that? What on earth could have caused that? And so the holistic practitioner that I was working with at the time, I really appreciated this. This is something that she taught me that I won't ever forget, is she said, remove yourself from that fight or fright position and go above and look at it from above. And it's still hard for me to do that because you're just like, stop. But I said, okay, I'm looking at this from above. What changed here? What happened? Like we were all calm and, cool and collective. And I was like, maybe it's the shirt. Okay, what's different about the shirt? Okay, it was air dried. So it was not Tide Pods, but I had the detergent in these little pods. And so I went and got one, and I put it in front of Charlie, and he goes, like trying to play with it and bat it around. 15 minutes later, all hell broke loose. He was a complete nightmare. He was, attacking his body all over the place. And it kind of reminds me of what Pam said about putting fuel on the fire. So his body's already all hyped up and crazy. And then I add environmental toxins like the laundry detergent, which just makes it worse. So I was like, okay, that's it. That's what the problem is here. Like, this is way before working with Pam. So I got rid of the laundry detergent, went and found a free and clear one, from Natural Grocers, and no sense at all. Washed all of my sheets, washed all of my clothes, washed all of my towels. I mean, my washing machine was going all the time. And then he had a reaction again after I mopped my floors. And I was like, what on earth? I have washed everything. I have wiped everything down. I'm not using any chemicals. I had steam mopped, and my mop heads I had forgotten to wash. So they were still in that detergent. So the other thing is like I've never used like plug-in air fresheners or spray air fresheners or anything like that, but those things are like really toxic.
Very.
I mean, I doing Floppycats for 15 years now, I've heard of cats dying from, going into kidney failure from that stuff getting into their food because a cat owner had one of those like right above their food. So you have to think of everything they're exposed to. Pam mentioned flame retardants in pet beds, but they are also in carpets and all sorts of things that cats lay on, not even if you don't have a pet bed.
Yeah, so, sometimes furniture and even floor mats.
Yes.
It's crazy. Sometimes rugs.
And that's why you have to take that 30,000 feet above view and say, okay, what in here could be causing this and making it worse? Okay. So there's that. So I got the analysis back from you, and we started the detox process. You typically start out with a homeopathic remedy to open up the.
It depends on the cat, but if there is a lot of stagnation in the body, sometimes we need to start just with lymphatic support and open the drainage pathways in the body. And that's probably what we had to do for him, because there is no sense in detoxing anything if the toxins are not going to be eliminated. And they just keep recirculating. And then you have a even more miserable cat. Yes. So we have to, and I learned these steps through naturopaths that I have worked with for years, and, in myself, and my cats worked with them many years ago as well. It's just a different method of a different way of thinking when it comes to these processes, but they make a lot of sense, because we want to make sure that the process that you go through is effective, but it's gentle. And we have to go slow. Sometimes you just have to go slow.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like I'm a broken record about this, but that was the biggest change with Pam compared to the other folks that I worked with. That, I mean, I was trying to go slow and natural, and it didn't matter though, because without getting rid of those toxins, we couldn't address the other things. So it's so important. That's such an important step to the process. Pam will also, you'll provide Pam with a list of the food that you currently feed. I mean, include everything, treats, supplements, anything. And then Pam can go through there and tell you what's beneficial or not beneficial. And Charlie, when we first started, was on a tablespoon of dry food, and we'll call it high quality dry food, because I've learned that there's not such a thing, but I don't want to cut it down, because at one point I thought that was all okay, and I've learned otherwise now with glyphosates, and that's a whole other thing. And I also wonder if glyphosates are a contributing factor to feline hyperesthesia syndrome. But so she'll go through those and then tell you which ones are beneficial and not. So you can also start working on changing and improving the diet, because that also is going to help.
Absolutely. Because the diet is foundational to health, and it's got to go through the digestive tract. The intestines are the home of the digestive tract, but they're also the home of the immune system. And so what goes through there really matters,
Yes. Yeah. And I think we talked about this would you say 100% of feline hyperesthesia cats have leaky gut?
Oh, 100%.
Can you explain what leaky gut is or means?
Yeah, so in the intestinal lining, there is only one cell that blocks, or that between the intestines and the bloodstream. It's one little layer of epithelial cells. So when toxins bombard the intestinal wall, the microbiome, the immune system, whether that's vaccines or glyphosate or flea medications, heavy metals, whatever it might be, they start to break down that integrity of the cell walls. And these little tight junctions that were once there, maintaining the integrity of the intestinal lining, starts to get weak, and then they start to open up. And the next thing you do is you have things like microbes and food particles and toxins, things, seeping through into the bloodstream. Now they're like running through the bloodstream. And what happens is the immune system recognizes that there's a foreign invader in the bloodstream that shouldn't be there. So what you end up happening is autoimmune responses. So now the body is starting to attack itself, because it's like, this is a foreign invader in the blood. We got to shut it down. And so the whole immune system kind of goes on overdrive, which is not a good place to be, because that's a whole other problem. But when you start to detox, like leaky gut, we use specific products that will go in and they will reseal the intestinal lining so that those things can't pass through the bloodstream anymore. We also use things to bind those toxins and pull them out of the body through remedies and herbs and other supplements and humic acids and things like that. So it's a process, and it can take a while for the immune system to heal. And it can, even though the gut lining may reseal in just several days, it's still not healthy. So it takes a while for that to really be fully restored.
Yes, it does take a while.
Mm-hmm.
So when you send back your optimal health analysis, you recommend supplements. And this was one of the things, and I'm still a part of the feline hyperesthesia group, even though Charlie's in remission. I have such PTSD from all of that I want to give back and help people that are in a position that I was in and give them hope. Because a lot of folks in there have had to put their cats down because they didn't know what else to do. Which also makes me like sick to my stomach of thinking of having to do that, because Charlie was a vibrant, healthy cat other than that problem. Like he wasn't in chronic renal failure or something like that where justify putting him down. So, so one of the individuals that is not into holistic approaches said, well, you're just going to trade out gabapentin for supplements. And Pam does sell supplements on her website. She doesn't require that you buy them through her. It's just a nice thing to support her business and do that. However, I didn't, because I wanted them immediately. And so I sourced them in town or online. So you can do that, but you don't have to. And you also, yes, you have to buy supplements because we have to heal the body, but it isn't like Charlie didn't stay on these supplements. He's not still on some of them. He's back on for other reasons now, but he hasn't been on them for a year. Whereas in gabapentin, a lot of these cats are on it 3 times a day, every day. So to me, I'd much rather give him something that's going to heal his body rather than put more stress on the organs and everything else.
Right. That's a good point, because whenever you're taking supplements, you want to know why you're taking them, what they're benefiting, what they're supposed to be doing. And they're supposed to be for a time. They're not supposed to be for life unless you have an underlying health condition like kidney failure or something like that you are just trying to support. But generally speaking, We don't want to have to use a supplement every day for the rest of their life. We're just trying, it's called a supplement because it's supplementing something that's missing for a time until the body can kind of catch up and just go, oh, okay, I'm good. But it's not a bad thing to pulse some things that support specific organs like the liver, from time to time, because we do live in a toxic world. So yeah, that's my opinion on supplementation. And I know that cats can be very finicky when it comes to specific supplements. So I try to use homeopathics and things that are just as good tasting as possible, if that's such a thing. But I can also clear certain things as taste bud stressors energetically, and I've got tons of testimonials on this. So basically, if a cat is refusing to take their milk thistle or their liver defense or something, I have been able to clear it as a stressor energetically, and then the next time they introduce it, the cat's like, oh, no big deal, I'll just take my treat, So it's really fun. It's really exciting to see that. We just have to be creative sometimes in how we get it in them. And so one of my go-to favorites is Gerber baby food, meat purees, or you guys can use those little squeeze up, treat puree things. Something that they think is delicious and yummy that you can hide some things in and mix it up really good and they don't even know it's there. That's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Yes. So you sent me, when you sent back the optimal health analysis, you have on there like, okay, you're going to do this product for 2 weeks. And I'm not trying to be like talking code or whatever, but I don't like to mention exactly what we used on Charlie because it was for Charlie.
Right.
And I don't want you to go, if you're watching this and you're like, well, I don't really think I want to work with Pam. I'll just do, what she did for Charlie. It might work a little bit. It could work kind of like the Feline Gut Soothe worked for me, but didn't address all of the problems. And then I don't want you to give up and go to your veterinarian for gabapentin. So that's why I'm hesitant to include the products specifically that we used on Charlie. How do you
Makes a lot of sense. No, I totally agree because some people want to try to do it on their own, but your cat is different than Charlie. Your cat may have different needs than Charlie, and the protocols may be different. The timing may be different. The actual products could be different. It just depends on what the body needs, and every body is different, Their journeys are different, so we need to treat each cat as a unique individual.
Yes. And most of the pushback that I've seen about working with you is usually financial. I think actually Pam is so reasonably priced, but most of the folks before they get to Pam have spent thousands of dollars. I spent thousands. I would have saved thousands if I had started working with Pam at first. I mean, it has been the cheapest thing that I've done to heal Charlie, and it's worked. So it's 100% worth it. But most folks are pretty drained emotionally, financially, etc., but physically by the time they get to Pam. That usually is a pushback. And then the other thing is just like not trusting that muscle testing or energy work is worth a damn. It just sounds wacky to people. But I want to mention that. So yes, you're going to pay for the optimal health analysis. And then there'll be supplements that you'll have to buy thereafter. But I believe, Pam, that you can tell people, like, if they're like, listen, I've got like $50 I can spend this month. What should I start on? That you can do that and give them a starting point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
and I also have, I have a vaccine detox customization service. So if you know your cat has had vaccines and you suspect maybe they might be contributing, or even if you're not even sure, I would do the vaccine detox customization. So at least you get that out of their system and any heavy metals and all of that, because it does come with gut and immune system recommendations for support, as part of that service. It is not a deep dive energetically. It is just a figuring out, okay, which vaccines do we need to clear out and what does the body need? So that's all. That's a very affordable service. And it's, if that's what they want to start with, or if they can't do the full, assessment, then I would start with that, at least if they've had vaccines.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good idea. Okay, I'm just looking through his first optimal health analysis to see if I missed anything. Herbicides, pesticides, including he was on Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Steroids, environmental chemical was dryer sheets. Environmental sensitivities were grasses, mulberry, walnut. And then the conditions were vaccinosis, inflammation, physical stress, toxic exposure, itching. So the mind body release and the energy work that Pam does, it is not something I can explain verbally, but it is a beautiful thing. Charlie actually, over the last couple of days, has had a horrible reaction to one flea bite. He is really allergic. I don't know if it's saliva or what, but I sent a video to Pam. So I've had to detox him again, and he's doing a lot better. But yesterday I sent a video to Pam because he was belly up like this, and I was like, this is what happens after you get an energy clearing from Pam. I mean, he was so relaxed and so just content that it's so hard to explain, because I just see it instantly. Or if Pam emails me in the morning and says, I'm going to work on your cats today, and Trig, she's also worked on my other cat, Trig. Trig's in the same room. I know instantly that she's working on him because I see him physically change and get more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So it is so cool, but it sounds like, what in the hell are these women talking about?
It goes back to that whole theory that energy is not limited by time and space. Energy clearing work is so powerful, and there are many types of energy healing techniques out there. I just happen to use a specific one that uses a cold laser on stress points in the body and calming points, just to help clear the. I would describe it like this. It's like energy healing work is like clearing the auric field and the stress around the body that's a result of the stress going on in the body. And it's like tuning in a radio station. You're removing all the static so that you have a clear channel of communication coming through. And once you remove the energetic layer of stress, the body can start to heal itself. It can relax. It can go into, autonomic nervous system and parasympathetic, instead of being on like sympathetic nervous system all the time, because it's so out of balance. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And the results are instant. It's fascinating.
It's fascinating and cool. And yes. So it actually, this is always my recommendation. If someone's going to buy an optimal health analysis, now, since I bought it last year, you've added an option to buy also a checkup, which I think is brilliant. Mm-hmm. Because I think checkups are so important. And especially if your cat is as toxic as a feline hyperesthesia cat,
yeah,
they're going to need a lot of support over several months. Mm-hmm. And it helps you save a little bit on that. And I feel like I'm a commercial for Purrrfectly Holistic right now. But so I've bought these extra, what do you call them? Like checkups. Thanks. Mm-hmm. And they're just so important to see where they are and what we need to change. But I get so excited for them for the energy healing. That's like what I want them for. Like, yay, you guys gonna have some energy healing today. Yeah. Because they change so much, and they just seem happier, and they stretch out, and oh, it's just the best.
It's so cool. And I think it's important for people to remember that you can't just do a one and done. You've got to
Yeah.
keep tracking your progress. And I love to go back 4 or 6 weeks later. And again, that depends on the cat and when their body says, hey, you need to check me in about 4 weeks. No, some cats it's 6 weeks, some cats it's longer. But it's so cool to go back and say, okay, here's where we started. Oh my gosh, look what does not resonate with stress and imbalance this time. Look,
Yeah.
look how far you've come. And every, few weeks, months, whatever, you do another checkup, it just gets healthier and healthier, and there's less and less and less stress. And you can just see the body changing by what doesn't resonate anymore with imbalance and stress. It's fascinating.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so phase 1, you had detoxifier, and then phase 2 was more detox, including glutathione.
And that was a liver support, liver and immune. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then you talked about how to do a homeopathic remedy. So I have a video of how to do yours, and I also have a video of how to do it another way if people are interested. Then you added some fulvic and humic acid.
Humic. Mm-hmm.
Humic.
Mm-hmm.
And then immune support with mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, well, you have diet modification, which was, okay. So the other very cool thing that Pam does is she will clear them for, or is that what you would call it, for dry food?
It was an addiction to sugar.
Okay.
Yeah. For cats who are kibble addicts like some cats, not Charlie, because he likes wet food too, but some cats are kibble addicts and they have blocks to wet food. They won't touch wet food. It's like repulsive and, but the energy clearing work removes that block, that energetic imprint that's like, bleh, I can't smell it, I can't touch it, whatever. And then when you clear that as a stressor, it's amazing because now you can introduce wet food and they're like, huh, this isn't so bad. I think I like this stuff, And then you can sneak away the dry food because you've cleared that sugar addiction, So that's the best time to start wet food or transitioning into better diets because you have to clear the blocks sometimes. Every cat's different. Yeah.
Yes. And I will say that, like, if you've always stored your dry food on top of your refrigerator, get it out of your house. Don't let them smell it. Go put it in your trunk and take it to a rescue. But, or if you aren't, sure yet, like I wasn't with Pam, I was like, let's see if this lady can do anything. You can put it in your freezer, but just get it out of the aroma area that your cat could smell it, because that's like so important. And I guess with Pam too is she'll tell you, like if your cat's eating lamb and lamb's a problem, she'll also ask you to, let's remove lamb for 6 weeks or 4 days or whatever. I think Charlie and Trig had to avoid chicken for 6 months or something like that when we first started, because it was a contributing factor to issues that were going on. I'm just trying to give people kind of like an overall idea of how it all works. Color therapy, you suggested yellow. So I put yellow towels on my guest bed where Charlie tends to lay. And I was like, what the hell? I'll try that. So I had like a yellow bath mat that I put down. And when I came back that afternoon, Charlie was only on the yellow bath mat. And I remember taking a picture and sending it to Pam and being like, wow.
And you said yellow was your favorite color. You're like, oh, no problem. I got lots of yellow in my house. And your bedspread or something else that was yellow.
Yes.
Yeah. That blew your mind when they were actually sitting on the yellow.
Yes, it did indeed. And then you had allergy symptoms. You gave me a homeopathic remedy for that. Okay. And then the rest of it is kind of explaining everything. So what I want to talk about is, I'd say probably Charlie's symptoms were like under control within 2 or 3 weeks. But he wasn't fixed at that point. And I don't know how long fixing took, because we continue to make improvements for both, because I submitted Charlie, I went ahead and submitted Trig. And so I worked with Pam on both of my cats, and we actually found out that Trig had a lot more health problems than I thought he was doing fine. I was like, oh, this one's going to be a piece of cake. And he's been more of a challenge than Charlie. Mm-hmm. We found out with Trig that some of the gums, like gar gum and stuff like that, that are used in wet food was really causing a pancreatitis issue in him. Mm-hmm. So Pam said, you need to switch to raw. I've always wanted my cats on raw, but I was like, this is never going to happen. They're 13 years old. Like, this is not going to happen. And I just don't have the patience, like some people like transition like 1 teaspoon at a time, increase to 2 teaspoons the second week, so on and so forth. And I was like, oh my God, I think I'd drive myself nuts. Pam transitioned my cats in 2 weeks. It was absolutely amazing. I still, like, 13 years in, when I put down raw food, I'm like, I can't believe you guys are eating raw food. This is so cool. So what I want to mention about that is when I first started working with Pam, Charlie had high cholesterol. And now he does not have high cholesterol because his diet is species appropriate for what his body needs. And I just did a poop test. I was going to say a bad word. With Animal Biome. And before I started working with Pam last year, or maybe, yes, because he was on fecal pills when you and I met. Mm-hmm. So I had just done an Animal Biome test, which is a company where you send in your cat's poop and they analyze the bacteria that's in it. Did I say that right?
Microbiome. Yep. All the microfloras. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And so I just did it again to see, because they've been on raw food since August. And so we're 10 months in. I was looking at the date because it's June. And she was the lady, you get a consultation after they, analyze the poop and stuff. And she was like, I'm really surprised to see that they have all the bacteria like that they're supposed to have in their system. They're still a little out of balance, but they had all of it. And the time before, they did not. They had like 5 of the 13, or I don't know how many, but wow. It was so cool. And then I did that iridology.
Iridology. Yeah.
With Poppy Phillips. And that's on my YouTube too. And she said that their guts looked awesome. I mean, they had other problems going on, but I mean, they're 13, almost 14. It's just there's been benefits beyond fixing the feline hyperesthesia syndrome. Absolutely. Like it is an optimal health analysis because you are working towards optimal health.
Yeah. And we look at everything. We don't just zero in on one little symptom. It's a holistic approach is looking at the whole cat. That's, emotional, physical, spiritual health. It looks at all of the body systems, all of the organs, all of the glands. How are they working synergistically? What is contributing to stress overall in the body? Because there could be multiple things. There always are. There always are. So that is a true holistic approach when you look at the whole picture, where conventional medicine just zeroes in on one little area and they forget that the rest of the body is going to be affected by whatever you do to that one thing. It doesn't stay right there. It's not an island. So it is going to impact the rest of the body. So that's why I love holistic medicine so much, is because you do get a true picture of overall health. And that's the goal. It's not just putting a Band-Aid on the symptom.
Right. Yeah, because at one point in the process, you had me, or I had delayed on starting milk thistle and was doing other things, and I was detoxing something, and then I wasn't supporting the liver with milk thistle because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I mean, Pam had told me what to do, but I didn't do it. And once I started the milk, I reached out to Pam, and she's like, "Well, have you started the milk thistle?" And I was like, "Oh, no." And then once I did that, then that symptom alleviated itself. And one of the other things I wanted to talk about, because I don't think people are prepared for this, is the detox process. Mm-hmm. For me, for my cats, and it varies, right? Depending on the cat, we had lots of vomiting. We had diarrhea. But when you think about toxins, like I always think about when I've seen a lot of shows on people getting over a heroin addiction or something like that, they throw up a lot. And you can have diarrhea and everything when you're going through a detox. And so to me, it was okay. I was okay with that. But I've learned from readers that they get really bothered by their cats throwing up or having diarrhea. But to me, I wanted the toxins to leave the body. So that was fine for me.
Yeah. Every cat's different. Now, ideally, we like in cases like that, other people might be more comfortable going a little bit slower, and we can always, cut down the dose a little bit and maybe not do it twice a day, maybe once a day. We just have to work with the circumstances. You know what I mean? And I don't think your cats were doing that for a long time. It wasn't weeks and weeks and weeks.
No, and I was thinking like, oh God, because so many things that I say, people interpret, and I'm like, that is not what I meant. Like, like Trig might throw up on Monday and then throw up again on Wednesday, but my cats don't throw up, so like that's what I meant. It was way more vomiting than I'm used to, but it wasn't like 5 times in one day.
Right.
It was just a more frequent thing than like hairball season, which I also didn't experience. And my cats, I think, had 2 hairballs transitioning into this season this time too. So that's been reduced. But I just wanted to mention that because I had forgotten about that until I talked to someone who's going through this right now, someone from the Feline Hyperesthesia group, because I recommend Pam about 5 times a day in there. And I'm like, oh, right, that happened. I forgot about that because, you just get to a point where you're so much more peaceful and you don't have to worry all the time.
Right.
So you just forget all those horrible things.
Yeah. And we do want the body to release all those toxins and not hold on to it. And sometimes the body just has to do that. I mean, that's why it's part of the autonomic nervous system. It's an automatic reflex, that our bodies do that when they have to purge something. And it's probably the most effective way sometimes because it can come out faster.
Yes.
But there's a lot of like cats will throw up, even if it's just clear. Sometimes it could be, stomach acid, or it could be the stomach has just got a lot of bad bacteria that it just needs to get rid of.
Yes. Yeah.
Same thing for the poop. If the poop is a little soft or, whatever, it's like, it's just probably just purging. Or if they're transitioning to the raw food, sometimes they'll have that happen. But their microbiome is changing as well. So, those little microbes, they're like little sentient beings. They all have an opinion. It's like, get that crap out of here.
Yes, and please do. Yes.
It's not working for us. Go.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that is all I can think of. And I just hope that I wanted to do this because I want to be able to send people what, part of my journey. I have like a list on that group on Facebook, but I also, for the people that aren't on Facebook and are looking for solutions, I wanted something else out there so that they know how to reach out to Pam. Pam also did an awesome webinar about feline hyperesthesia. She went through it more methodically than I have today. And so I will link to that below as well if you want to check it out. It is the best that's out there. And I wish that it had existed when Charlie had this, because then I could have sent it to my veterinarian. Because veterinarians are trained in a certain way. They don't mean not to do whatever. They just don't know.
Right.
Because they understand how the body works, it makes so much more sense to them more quickly. Would you agree?
Yeah, and even some of the vets are just still like mystified, like, wow, like, why did you come up with that? Because they don't understand the whole concept of energy and muscle testing, or my methods that I've been trained on, which is so very cool. But we've even got your vet on board now, and that's so cool because she's like, go ask Pam, go ask her to test something, whatever.
Yes.
but it's just showing them, it's part of that education process, right? They're not trained in that. They're not trained to look at a holistic approach. They're trained to identify a symptom and then figure out what band-aid to put on it, or trauma, or underlying, like severe underlying health issues where there's a heart issue, or something like really is wrong. They do awesome with that. But stuff like FHS, they just kind of scratch their heads and go, well, maybe you could just give them steroid. They just don't know.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite mantras is this: you don't know what you don't know. So I tell people, keep an open mind. You go into it with, view it as a learning opportunity, because people are given these amazing animals, these beautiful creatures to share our lives with. And I really truly believe that they are our best teachers, and they are in our lives to teach us something. And part of their health journey is part of our journey too. And learning what they have to go through can also help us,
100%. And I actually want to talk about my vet for a second, because there are a couple of things that happened in the process with my vet, with Pam too. So she knew that he had feline hyperesthesia syndrome. We were on steroids. I told her I was working with a holistic, not Pam, the other holistic practitioners. And then I told her about my laundry detergent discovery. And I was like, I think this is the cause. So by the time I started working with Pam, she was like, you are the girl who cried wolf. You think that everything is the next best thing, and this is going to be the solution. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut on Floppycats too until I see proof, and it's lasting proof. It isn't a steroid that lasts 3 days and then I have to give it again. So I didn't say anything to her. I mean, it was probably a little obvious, because the text messages to her and the phone calls to her started, decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
However, it wasn't until I brought Charlie in for blood work. I bring my cats in for blood work every 6 months because of their age. And it was the first time that Charlie's alter ego, Chucky, did not come out.
I remember that.
Yes. And she was like, what's going on with him? And she's like, you're not having allergy problems with him anymore. He's not itching. He's not licking. And like, he didn't overreact today. And I was like, right. Cause his body is not on fire anymore. It was like anything that touched him was, just set him off. Pam saying putting fuel on the fire by putting flea meds on is a perfect metaphor for it, because anything, like just a needle touching him, he went berserk. So I told her, I've been working with this lady named Pam, and she has a business called Purrrfectly Holistic, and she has literally treated the cause and solved the problem. I was like, did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
So then she started referring her clients to Pam. I think the first one might have been a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that she had struggled with like for years or something like that. And I don't know, I don't get involved between Pam and our vet, but it was funny to me, because I also told her about animal biome. And I think because I cried wolf so many times, she's like, I'm not going to listen to Jenny. But now she's using animal biome, and now she's using Pam.
She's a neat lady, and she's eager to learn, and she's open-minded, and I love that awesome about her. She's awesome. Yeah. Because I get stuck sometimes, and I have to go to my mentors, and I have to go to my other teachers and my friends who specialize in different things. I'm like, I'm stuck. It's just nice to get a different perspective, and you learn. It's like, I want to learn something from all of this, because that's why I usually have to go through things so I can learn. But it's so cool that she's like, wow, this is amazing. And I don't know how you do it, but it's working. It's helping my patients when there's, again, some of the vets' toolboxes are just limited in what they've learned and what they've been taught. I just offer a different perspective. That's all it is. It's energy and frequency, and they work in medical and they have this amazing skill and knowledge that benefits, that side of wellness. It's just cool when you can use both. Holistic approaches can be a great complement to medical when necessary, but sometimes you don't need medical, you just need holistic stuff.
Yes.
And a lot of that is proactive and it's prevention. And if we can get that right, then you don't need the medical stuff. You can stay out of the vet's office because nobody likes to go there, including your cat. Nobody wants to be there. It's never convenient and it's never cheap. So just, kind of like car repairs. If we can avoid them, let's avoid them and just keep our cats as healthy as possible and be proactive in wellness. And then they will live long, healthy, happy lives. And that's what we want.
Yes. And you saying that brought up another point that I needed to address. Hopefully I'm done bringing up these points. But Dr. Sally, when I told her about the allergies, she said, Jenny, you don't understand. So many clients come in here and they want a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
They're not willing to do what you did.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, Pam ended up being a great support for me through the process, because one of the things that she said to me was how proud she was of my perseverance, that a lot of people would give up or something like that. And it is hard to keep going sometimes in the holistic process, because you want to give up and you're like, oh, screw it, I'll just give him steroids. And I did once. After I started working with Pam, I was like, screw it, I'm going to give him a steroid. And then I was so bummed afterwards that I had, fallen back. So yes, I think that's also, I think veterinarians are put in a position where they have to, the client is looking for a quick fix that you get from Western medicine,
Mm-hmm.
but that quick fix will also be the catalyst to other problems down the road. So it might work right now for treating the problem, but like you said, it's so concentrated on that problem that, and how is it going to affect the other organs or systems that it's involved with?
Right. Because, medication does have side effects, and steroids have side effects, and steroids have long-term side effects. And so trying to use stuff that's natural, that works with the body, is always great, versus something, in some cases you do have to use medications and drugs, and I totally get that. But if you don't have to, it's great that you can use something that works with the body in the way it works naturally, instead of trying to block a receptor or change the way cellular metabolism works, or whatever drugs are designed to do. They're designed to manipulate something, and it's not a natural process that they do. So when we can use a natural process that the body's like, oh, hey, this makes me happy, I recognize that molecule, because it's a natural herb or something that's doesn't have a detrimental effect to it. You know what I mean? So it's just cool that you can find ways to support the body with the way it already works, instead of trying to change how it works.
Yes.
Sometimes it's necessary, but not always. And again, you're so right, because you do have to pack your patience, and I told you that a lot. Be patient. Healing takes time. Don't give up, don't quit, persevere, because just do it one day at a time. Just take it one day at a time, because eventually you'll get there. But, in this world that we live in, people like instant fixes. They want instant gratification. They want instant results. They're willing to take a pill to fix the ill, at that moment. But then down the road, they are going to have a lot of other problems because of that. So we just you have to weigh the pros and cons. What are you willing to do? What kind of result do you want?
Yeah.
And everybody's different. And you know what? Everyone's on their own personal journey, and I respect that. If this does not resonate with people, it's okay. You go the route that you feel that you're led to go, because that's the path you're meant to go. If this feels like something that resonates with you and you want to try it because something inside you says, you know what, I just feel like that isn't working. I need to do something different. Then follow that intuition. I tell people all the time, nobody knows your cat better than you. Listen to that intuition inside of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also my vet wasn't like, she can't dedicate 3 hours
No.
to looking at my cat. And so that's the other thing, is that you're taking the time to really dive deep into that cat and offer some really great healing suggestions. And a good vet will appreciate the work that Pam does and will appreciate how she does it. And thank God I finally found one. It took my parents' cats going into chronic renal failure, and being given a vaccine when they were in chronic renal failure for me to finally switch from my vet. But I'm so thankful to have switched to Dr. Sally, and how she was responded about you too. I mean,
yeah,
God bless her.
She's awesome.
Yes. Well, Pammy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Did I miss
hope
anything?
It helps. No, I don't think so. That was awesome.
Okay.
I hope this really helps people have a like a broad overview, a 30,000 foot view, as you know, just
yes,
as you said, because it does. We wanted to kind of break things down to give you a broad perspective, but yet detailed at the same time, to give you an insight so that you can figure out if this is something that resonates with you or not.
Yes, agreed. Thank you. I will include links to everything we talked about in the description below. If I forget one, just let me know in the comments and I'll add it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you, Pammy.
You're welcome.